Hello and welcome to another MovieBoozer.com virtual pubcast. I'm your host, Ken Ekman, and I'm joined today by Bill Arsenault.
Uh, hey,
Bill
Arsenault.
Arsenault.
Oh, Lord, I coined this phrase a few months back, but if Bill Arsenault was a wrestler, his name would be Bill Arsenal.
Oh my God.
Actually, you're right. That was the very video game name I came up with myself on the SmackDown games back in the day.
I just got a bunch of those back. Like I bought like all the PS2 ones.
Yeah. I my favorite one was the one with Brock Lesnar on the cover.
That's the best one.
That's the best one.
We could talk about that for days because that is like one of the best wrestling.
We really could, but yeah, that was the nickname I had.
You could also become a really popular soccer fan if you went with Bill Arsenal.
Yeah, I guess.
Is it a joke?
He's trying to butt into our conversation, Bill. he's like, you could also get into soccer.
I don't get the soccer reference though. What?
Arsenal is one of the major soccer teams in England. I believe they're based out of London somewhere.
My coworkers go apeshit over soccer, and I just ignore it.
We actually have a soccer team here in New Orleans called the Jesters.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing pretty good. They're undefeated right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I have this VHS tape of Yanni live. You can't see it, but that's what we're going to be reviewing today is a Yanni concert from 1992.
Who here remembers the 7-Up commercial for Diablo?
I don't know. I remember the Orlando Jones "Make 7-Up Yours" commercials.
Yeah, that's what got him popular, and then he got him into movies for a couple years.
Well, he was on Mad TV before that.
Yeah, so there was this '90s commercial for 7-Up that starts off with this guy who looks like Frank Zappa or some shit, and it says he's sold more records in Bulgaria than anyone.
I was gonna say he looks like Frank Zappa, but I bet he's representing like a European or Israeli type.
Right, and then the commercial continues. He's Yablo, the master of the ocarina.
It's
showing this Yanni looking dude who is playing an ocarina, and just it's like a 30-second long commercial that parodies those Time Life collection ads from the 90s.
Oh yeah. I used to watch those like on repeat.
Mm-hmm.
Because when that or the Weather Channel, whatever was, something mindless, I could throw
that is not a joke, by the way. I have collected so many random VHS tapes that I do actually have a Yanni live VHS. Hopefully, we'll do something with it someday. I would love to do something with it someday.
Yanni live. Oh my god, the ocarina versus the melodica.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. You know what? It was a Sprite commercial. I must.
Oh yeah, 7-Up wouldn't dare do that.
Yeah, but the commercial is available on YouTube, so I highly recommend. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and link you guys to that.
Do you think they drank 7-Up in space?
I'm sure they could, but I think Coca-Cola owns that, right?
Oh yeah, Coca-Cola's got like a 90% stake in all of space, right?
Yeah, exactly.
They put the money. They put the money down in 1915.
Right. Well, I do remember going to the Coca-Cola Museum in Atlanta, Georgia, and they actually had on exhibit the first Coke can in space that was taken into space. Yeah, they had that there. I forget what the mission was, but I think it was one of the space shuttle missions.
But they brought garbage back with them. Refuse.
Essentially, yeah. They did. Yeah.
Hey guys, you want to recycle this?
Put it in our museum that costs millions of dollars to build.
Yeah, Indiana Jones pops
up. It belongs in a museum.
You took the words out of my mouth.
We thought of it at the same time, so I just happened to do my impression first.
Harrison Ford.
We have movies to talk about this week. The first
like Blade Runner 2049.
Yeah, which
wow.
I have never really been able to get into Blade Runner. I feel like I need to rewatch it.
Either. I don't know if I ever told you guys the story about when I saw Blade Runner.
There's a story behind it. Okay.
There's a story behind it. I was basically attending a college course that I was not paying to attend.
Oh,
A friend of mine was taking this course and was like, "Yeah, the professor doesn't give a shit. Come watch Blade Runner." And I'm just sitting there in this classroom. They use the theatrical cut, by the way, so I am just like so bored. And I'm like, the effects are nice, the miniatures are nice, but like, what is going on in this movie? Like, fuck all these people, fuck all these replicants. They're all boring.
I never understood what the movie was about until I read its synopsis, because I watched the movie a little too young, I think.
Yeah. Well, there's this great video essayist that I'm a patron of on Patreon named Jonathan McIntosh, and he did a video about Harrison Ford's misogyny throughout his career. And one of the clips was of Blade Runner, specifically the scene where he forces himself upon what's her name? The actress's name?
In Blade Runner, I don't remember.
Yeah, Sean.
Sean Young.
Sean Young, yes. And it was a violent scene when you think of it. He was aggressive in that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was
so was it about Harrison Ford being misogynist in real life, or just
just that his character represents machismo tropes?
Oh. I was going to say because another
probably okay, but I don't know.
I never felt compelled to go back and revisit it. And I've heard all these people say, there's 46 different cuts of the movie. God forbid I would have to figure out which one is the fucking good one. But it's just like it left such a dull effect on me.
The only thing that stuck out in my mind was the visuals and Rutger Hauer. And
I don't even remember him being in that. But that's a testament to how long it's been. It's been like over a decade since I saw it.
Didn't Red Letter Media do a review of it where they?
I was watching
about the multiple cuts.
It was him and Jim. No, not Jim. The other one,
Josh.
No. It was one of the Canadians.
Oh, no, that's right. It was one of the Canadians. Yeah, you're right.
Oh, okay. You know what?
The little one, the little non-bearded one. What's his name? Colin.
Colin.
Yes, Colin.
Yeah.
And they talked about how the movie is kind of dull, and it's more remembered for its visuals and its lushness than it is, for its story necessarily.
I dated a girl years ago who loved sci-fi literature. Big Philip K. Dick fan. I didn't know the title of the short film or the short story that it's based on. I think it's a short story, right? It's not a whole
Android's
book.
Dream of Electric Sheep.
Great title. Such an obscure, weird, quirky title. And then this is the movie that you made based on that? It's I don't know.
One thing I will say is Philip K. Dick is probably the most he's probably the sci-fi writer who's had the most projects realized on film.
Mm-hmm.
Because
I would buy that. Yeah.
Because you have got, besides Blade Runner, obviously, you have got movies everywhere from. Oh, good! I found a list. Listen to this. All of these are based on Philip K. Dick stories.
Yeah.
All right. So, damn it, my screen just froze.
A Scanner Darkly, Total Recall.
Yep. Okay. A Scanner Darkly, Total Recall. Yep. I found. It got it.
Radio Free Albemuth.
Yep. Screamers, Minority Report, Paycheck, the John Woo movie.
Oh, the Ben Affleck, the movie that they really banked on having a twist, and then the twist was really stupid.
The Nick Cage movie Next, The Adjustment Bureau.
Oh.
But I would say, though, if you have not seen Screamers, that's a really unique little sci-fi movie with Peter Weller as the star. So RoboCop.
I haven't seen it, but I gotta say, Total Recall is fantastic.
It's a fun-ass movie, yeah.
You've seen Screamers, Bill A?
No, I haven't. I've seen it in video stores before, but I have never actually watched it.
Let me give you the plot of it really quick. It takes place on an alien planet in the late 2000s, so 2070 something, and it's on this planet that was once a mining colony, but a civil war broke out. And the technology over the years became more and more the war technology became more and more based on artificial intelligence, to the point where the enemy designed these self-replicating robots that hunt down and kill soldiers. And they're called Screamers because right before they attack, they make this high-pitched screeching noise. Mm-hmm. And they find out that these robots have learned to replicate humans.
Ew.
and Peter Weller is going on this trip where you see these. There's this wonderfully horrifying scene where a bunch of like these young children who are actually screamers, who all look exactly the same, are like attacking a facility. It's pretty amazing.
I gotta say, especially since you threw Peter Weller in there, you guys have heard the Terminator versus RoboCop storyline, right?
I believe so.
RoboCop was created, and then based on the technology that they came up with to make RoboCop, that led to Skynet. So RoboCop is responsible for Skynet.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. I would love to see this movie. Like, basically what I was going to say is I just want Peter Weller to be RoboCop all the time.
Gotcha. Yeah. So Screamers, though, I highly recommend it. It's a great piece of 90s sci-fi entertainment. And speaking of sci-fi entertainment,
I guess is this entertainment, or is this
this is entertainment?
Give us your money, please.
That's entertainment.
That's entertainment. That's what I was thinking of. Yes.
Are you not entertained?
Are you not entertained? My screening that I went to last night, I was telling Ken before you jumped on, before we broadcasted, that it was kind of ruined by the fact that no one told us it was going to be in 3D. So no one had glasses for the first 3 minutes.
And we better say the title. We haven't yet. Valerian and the City of 1,000 Planets.
Yes.
Speaking of lengthy titles.
So they had to rewind the movie, and when I like to say rewind because it's like such a, it's like it's not even used anymore.
Right.
It's a VHS type term.
They
just restarted it. They just clicked back and boom, it played.
Go loop that MP4 file back from the beginning. Yeah, thanks, Luke.
Wouldn't it be hilarious if they had to rewind it? It was like...
I would pay money for that to happen.
They have a VCR hooked up to a digital projector.
That was actually the technical storyline in On Cinema at the Cinema.
Mm-hmm.
What's his face? The other guy, not Tim Heidecker.
Greg Turkington.
Greg Turkington was running a movie theater, and he was projecting it off of movies off of a VCR.
Although, Bill, I am going to tell you,
equipment.
Nobody's going to get mad if you refer to Greg Turkington as Neil Hamburger. Nobody's going to get mad.
Okay, I was thinking Greg Turkington, but
yeah. I mean, that's what he's called on there, but he made his name as Neil Hamburger. That's who he is.
I got you. No, I remember.
But who from our generation doesn't remember the mildly awkward moments of having to rewind a video that you just rented? You put it in the player and you find out it's not rewound. So the conversation ceases as you put it in. The machine makes the...
Unless you were fancy and you had one of those automatic rewinders.
That's true.
Those things are boss.
Or what about the feeling of watching a movie and the nudity scene comes and you see the adjust tracking thing happen?
Which
tells you that other people have rewound, paused, and gone back and forth to that scene multiple times.
They got their jollies, as you do. I had just had a conversation with a coworker about this same phenomenon the other day. I forget what movie it was that I rented that had started happening with. Might have been Weird Science or something, like something super cliche that people like to wank off to.
See, for me, the very first instance I ever really discovered nudity in movies was when I saw National Lampoon's European Vacation.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, and Beverly D'Angelo,
right?
Yeah.
Well, no, not her. There was
the girl he goes swimming with.
Yeah, there's the scene.
You said European Vacation. You mean National Lampoon's Vacation?
You're right. I just confused those two.
No, what I'm referring to in European Vacation, there's this. I think it's a German girl who pulls her shirt open, and then there's a scene where they're in a nightclub that turns out to be a strip joint.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
For me,
I've only ever really seen the TV cuts of that movie, so those bits were cut out.
Yeah, it was that and King Ralph. Both of those movies within the same time period were PG/PG-13 rated films that happened to contain some nudity. And as a youngling, that
oh god,
I guarantee that those tapes became the tracking needed to be adjusted.
Yeah. Okay, let's just say.
As soon as I tell this story, you can review Valerian or whatever the fuck it's called. But
that's a better title, actually.
There is
Valerian or whatever the fuck it's called.
For me, it was Revenge of the Nerds. But I had one of my best friends told me a story when we were like in high school.
Yes.
Wow, what a fascinating story.
So should I just get to venereal? Oh, there he goes.
They put on Titanic like it's this big event for them, and they're sitting there fast forward into the fucking the painting drawing scene, and I gotta see a naked lady.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually why a lot of my friends at the time went to go see the movie. Was I was like, you're gonna sit through a 3-hour movie just for like a minute?
For
the internet wasn't really like that reliable back then. So
yeah, I know, but goodness gracious, I was like,
Great Balls of Fire.
Exactly, which was a pay-per-view. Yes, that wasn't very good. Except for the main event. They had some good matches, but anyways, venereal disease and the City of a Thousand Planets.
The City of a Thousand Pustules.
Ew,
shit,
that's rough.
That is the disgusting porn parody version.
that's the bold porn parody version, because pornos don't even want to address that issue.
No. That's This is the creepy Italian 70s porn we're talking about.
Oh, the one where they actually were taking chances back then.
Or this is the late 80s John Holmes, when he was knowingly giving people AIDS.
Oh god, I hate hearing about that kind of stuff.
Holmes was an awful human being, by the way. So.
Yes, I saw that documentary on the DVD of
Nights?
about the Val Kilmer movie where he played John Holmes. There's a DVD.
Oh, I haven't.
A bonus DVD that's a documentary on John Holmes, the real John Holmes. Wonderland. Yeah. That's the name of the movie.
John Mayer, your body's a wonderland. Good Lord.
So let's get off of this topic. Valerian,
Lord.
And the City of a Thousand Planets. There were expectations going in. They were like, this is from the epic visionary director of The Fifth Element and Lucy. And I was thinking, is Lucy really visionary?
I'm Luc Besson.
Maybe on a level.
I mean, they could have said The Professional or La Femme Nikita, or
they did. They also said those, but they also said Lucy, and I was thinking, Lucy looks pretty, but it's not.
That's to remind people who aren't,
isn't it? Yeah.
That's to remind people that he's actually done movies in the last 20 years.
Right.
Did Luc Besson do Taken?
No, that was Pierre. Someone he produced Taken.
Ah, okay.
Pierre Morel, I think, is the
guy.
By
the way, total aside, I watched some of it. They put on the Deadpool at work, the Dirty Harry sequel. Didn't know Clint Eastwood was, or not Clint Eastwood, Liam Neeson. Didn't know Liam Neeson was in that fucking movie.
Yeah,
it's not a very good one either.
Yeah. So going into this movie, you're seeing all these trailers, and they're telling you, they're giving you little bits of the footage, showing it off, and playing Beatles music over it. Like it's going to be this great.
It's been a hard day's night.
Well, that's the wrong kind of Beatles music. I mean, like.
You know what the song was specifically?
It wasn't Strawberry Fields. It was
something of that ilk, like a psychedelic.
Is round.
Yes, that one.
Oh, with or without you? Is that what that is?
Yes, I think so. That was
no,
the
that's
one.
A YouTube song.
Okay, well, never mind then. I don't fucking know what song. It was the one that Ken was singing.
Yeah, the song's just called Because.
It was
the George.
I feel bad for not. I feel bad for not knowing that.
I was waiting for you guys to figure that one out.
Well, thank you. So anyways, I wrote on Letterboxd immediately after I saw the movie some thoughts. So I'm going to read those thoughts, and here they are. If Roland Emmerich adapted an Alejandro Jodorowsky comic. Comic, yes, like a comic book. If Troy Duffy made Star Crash.
Oh, God.
If only I could properly describe this movie. Colorful to the point of becoming pure light, dimmed only by the deep 3D projection. Goofy and fun in all the right places, dull and over-expository in all the wrong ways. Cinematic invention and craft done better than Jupiter Ascending, but not quite as near seamless as Avatar.
Avatar sucks, though.
Yeah, but I mean on a special effects level. I don't mean like.
I like where you're going with that. That's pretty clever. May I ask, On a level of entertainment sci-fi, like would you put this on the level of Jupiter Ascending in terms of clusterfuck hilarity?
No, this is actually better. This is actually better structured than Jupiter Ascending.
No, you got it right the first time. It's more better.
It's more better? Yeah, okay. All right.
More money, more blues.
It's more better.
More better blues, yeah.
Yeah, I learned English from Hooked on Phonics.
Apparently, you learned it from Spike Lee, Mo Better Blues.
Or from, well, okay, yeah.
If
Mo Better Blues, that was a bad joke. Sorry.
He learned English from Spike Lee movie titles, so everything is duh.
Yes, okay, that's better.
Yo, Daddy, I'll suck your dick for $10.
No.
Why is it that Spike Lee movie titles always have have
ending to Jungle Fever is so stupid.
All right. So back to
venereal disease. I call it that, but that's only because it sounds like that. It's not Luc Besson's fault. It's based on a graphic novel, so.
Yeah.
Besson.
The movie is entertaining. Don't get me wrong; it is fun, but it's also very weird, which is good. Don't get me wrong; weird is good in this case. But the problem comes when the movie tries to explain everything.
Oh.
Instead of kind of coming up with its own mythology that we have to kind of piece together ourselves.
Right.
You know, like little things in the background and things in the foreground, characters that come out of nowhere, you know, stuff like that. Or having a fish out of water character that kind of has to discover these things, which is basically an avatar for us. Instead of doing that, it literally has scene after scene of everything being explained.
See, that's why Jupiter Ascending had problems, because every weird quirk of the film, they had an expository line to explain it.
Yes, it's very similar in that regard. Although I would say Jupiter Ascending is more of a mess than this movie.
Yeah.
This movie actually feels more like a movie. You know, it's actually pieced together rather well.
Right.
I should state that I gave it on the out of 5 stars, I gave it 2.5, which is like 50-50. It's like dead center.
That means it could be entertaining under the right.
It really could be. Yes, it's not a terrible movie. It's just it had so many different things going on in it that I couldn't ignore.
Yeah.
To give it something better to go with.
Was there a have you ever seen by any chance have you ever seen oh crap, Cutthroat Island?
No, I've never seen Cutthroat Island.
So Cutthroat Island is a movie that I think under the right with a little bit better guidance.
With more better?
Yes, with more better guidance. There with mo better guidance and just a little bit more.
Would you say that it needed reshoots? Were reshoots necessary? I wouldn't say
reshoots necessary, but it's a movie that has a lot of promise as like a pirate swashbuckling action adventure movie.
I mean, Cutthroat Island, not to cut you off, but Cutthroat Island killed that genre until the fucking Pirates of the Caribbean came out.
The problem is the screenplay was just not there, and really with a little bit of polish to the screenplay, it could have been really a lot of fun. And does Valerian feel underwritten or overwritten, maybe?
It feels overwritten in the expository bits. It feels okay when they're just talking. You know, when they're just conversing with one another and getting from scene to scene and having their own little eccentricities. Believe it or not, Dane DeHaan is actually kind of okay in this movie. He's not a bad actor. It's just he looked weird for the role. You know,
eyebrows DeHaan.
That, and he doesn't really look like an action star or someone who's charismatic. In this movie, he didn't really have to be. He just had to be kind of not a goof. He's not a goof at all. He's supposed to be like Maverick from Top Gun.
I should say, by the way, that Zach, co-founder of MovieWizard.com, and his wife Jung-hee both have a serious crush on Dane DeHaan.
Oh, I can see why.
Throwing that out there.
Okay, well, he does a good job for what he's given, and the script isn't terrible. It's just, again, when it's expository, specifically over-expository, it's bad. when it's just trying to be itself, it's mildly okay. It could have been punched up some more, is what I'm saying. Now, visually, this movie is incredible. There's this incredibly crazy sequence where Dane DeHaan, who plays Valerian, he's wearing this like super suit that I can only compare to G.I. Joe: The Rise of Cobra. Remember when Marlon Wayans and Channing Tatum put on those super suits and they're running around Paris?
Yeah.
It's like that. He's running through walls in a space station.
Damn.
The space station happens to be, by the way, the original International Space Station, but it's been growing for all these decades into this gigantic city of 1,000 planets.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's called that because of all the different civilizations.
So the International Space Station started. They just keep building onto it, and that's.
They just keep building onto it over the years, and different species from other planets have joined up to build it and share information and knowledge, and it's become like the hub of the universe, kind of.
Yeah, I like that concept.
It's actually a cool concept. The movie starts with this wonderful bit with a David Bowie song. Ground control, I'm stepping through the door. That whole.
Of course, they're going to play the most obvious space-related Bowie song.
Right, I know. But they play that. I at least they didn't go with Starman. Which worked in The Martian. That would have been even more on the nose, probably. It worked in The Martian, but in this movie, they went with something safer.
Yeah.
And there's this wonderful opening sequence where they show the early days of the International Space Station being built, and then they show it slowly over the centuries being built upon and more creatures coming to visit. And they show specifically handshakes between aliens and humans, like, hey, welcome aboard, that kind of thing. And it's actually pretty fun. It's a fun little bit. It's a fun little sequence that kind of sets everything up like, okay, this is the world we're getting into, and that it's all based on like this peace and unity thing, and who's going to hold it all together? Valerian's an agent for outer space or something. and he keeps it all together, that kind of thing.
At any point, did one of the alien races resemble, like, if you're at all familiar with the cartoon strip The Far Side, one of my favorite Far Side cartoons is where aliens land on Earth, and the aliens, their head resembles like a human hand. And the caption, I actually just pulled it up here. So just imagine a farmer, like an everyday hick farmer, shaking violently the hand-shaped head of an alien. And it says, inadvertently, Roy dooms the entire Earth to annihilation when, in an attempt to be friendly, he seizes their leader by the head and shakes vigorously.
Oh yeah, that's
See,
pretty
I think that
they didn't. That would have been funny if they did that. They did have a moment where a slime creature shakes hands with the human, and the goo is all over the guy's hand. He's like, ew, But other than that, that was pretty juvenile, but it didn't ruin the moment. It was a fine little, segment and everything. It kind of sets things off a little awkwardly, though. Now that I think about it, because from there we get destruction. Which is the inciting incident, and that sets off the course of events for the rest of the film.
Gotcha.
And then we get into like fun escapades with Valerian and his partner, and they're going around the universe, solving mysteries or missions and stuff like that. And it, that opening felt much more like something you would put in a loftier film. Than you would in a movie like this that's trying to be like its own Star Wars.
Right.
In a way.
So does it feel like that? It's like it's setting itself up for a big franchise kind of thing?
I think it wants to be. I know for a fact that Luc Besson really had a lot of passion for this. You could tell in the movie that there was a lot of passion going into this. There's a lot of fire going into this. Specifically, too, he even directly states that at the very end of the movie, there's a credit that says, "For my father." So he really put a lot of energy into this movie, he must have maybe read stories with his dad or something, and
maybe his father was really into science fiction stuff.
Maybe that too, yeah. I don't know. So you could tell there was a lot of energy put into it, and there is indeed a lot of great monster and creature effects. There's a lot of really good imagination in this movie too, and I'd imagine that's taken from the graphic novel. stuff involving other dimensions on top of worlds, and
The comic this is based on is actually from 1967, so it could very well have been maybe Luc Besson's dad read the comic or something, or introduced it.
Yeah, it could have very well been something like that. So Luc Besson is a good director for interpreting this kind of stuff to cinema, visually, is what I mean. When I just had a feeling maybe in order to make this movie work for mass audiences, instead of taking a chance, he probably threw in some expository dialogue and visuals to explain what the hell's going on a little too much. There's also this silly bit with Rihanna. She plays like a shapeshifter alien
named Bubble, apparently.
Named Bubble, yes. I don't know why. She's kind of a stripper though. When we meet her. And that was a fun sequence. She's like, on the pole doing her work and everything. And then Valerian is like, hey, I need your help. And, they get into a little fight. And then eventually she joins him. But her subplot amounts to nothing. She's just there to A, help Valerian, and B, be Rihanna.
So it's identical to her role in Battleship.
Yeah, kind of. I guess. I think she had more to do in that movie. In this
Probably.
movie,
I didn't see Battleship. That was just a cheat.
In this movie, she had to dance and be a CGI creature.
What? What, she got mocap?
I don't know if she had mocap. I think they just filmed her physical scenes and then put in an animation, superimposed it over some other actress or something.
They could have rotoscoped the shit out of that. Okay.
Yeah, I know, right? They could have done some more. But the monster, like I said, the creature effects are just wonderful. Like they got these weird bulging eye aliens that just are goofy looking. They got I want to say John Goodman has a voice role in this movie.
It says that he does, yes.
Okay, he must be the guy that plays the what do you call it?
The ukulele?
Yes, the ukulele.
It says he's the voice of the character Egon Cirrus.
Egon Spengler.
Yes, I think that's the
he's a pirate captain.
Yes, I think he's a black market dealer that's selling items to some alien race, and that was the first mission there Valerian's on, to capture that product that he's trying to sell.
Listen to this though. Rutger Hauer is apparently the president of the World State Federation in this.
Yes,
and then you also have Herbie Hancock.
Yes, that actually was a crazy credit. I don't know. I don't remember seeing him in the movie. I'm sure he's in it. I just don't remember seeing him in it.
He's listed as defense minister. And there were also Louis Leterrier and Olivia Megaton also have cameos in the movie.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So he put all of
his friends into this.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny. I don't know why Herbie Hancock, though. I guess maybe he asked him, like, hey, Herbie, you want to be in my movie for a second? And he's like, yeah, sure. I don't remember seeing him in it, but I do remember that credit. And I remember going, oh, but then they don't do much with him. So I was like, oh. It's not, like I said before, a terrible movie. It's very fun. It's very weird. I believe I said to the publicist after the movie that it was effortlessly weird. Like without effort, it's just a weird movie. When it's weird, it's really good. Like when it's just being itself and it's not trying to put on any airs or to tell a deeper story or trying to be something it's not, or trying to be this Hollywood product that's going to make a shitload of money. It's really good. But when it is trying to do those safe things, when it is playing things, more for the masses, I guess you could say, more for the Hollywood producers who invested into this, that's when it kind of goes flat, and I would say that's due to the over expositions. I just had a big problem with those, and there were some performances here and there that weren't as good, but those really weren't too much of an issue. It really was script, and also there were aspects that were a few here and there that were kind of dullish, but that's not a huge fault of the movie. This movie is definitely not overall dull. It just has a few dead spots here and there. So I would say go into this movie with don't believe in the hype with all these trailer expectations. Like it's going to be the greatest space epic ever. But do go in thinking, okay, this could be fun, a fun outing.
Mm-hmm.
And go into it in the right mood set and mindset, and I think you'll come out well entertained.
So if you're just looking to scratch the space opera itch, this will do it.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Fair
just
enough.
Barely scratch it. It won't really like
bring, 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 bring.
So it's like when you
Hello? Who's this? Oh, hello, Herbie Hancock. It is your friend Luc Besson.
Okay.
Yeah, what's up, man? What's up? I got a lot of jazz music to make. I'm kind of busy right now. Oh, well, I'd like you to act in space movie. I think it'll be very good for your career.
Your Herbie Hancock and your Luc Besson are not as good as your Trump.
Let me ask you, Bill Leon, have you ever by any chance seen the movie Good Morning Vietnam?
Years and years and years ago, we're talking like 13, 14 years old on Comedy Central, completely not grasping the significance of like the story they're telling. I was just like, Robin Williams is a quirky radio DJ. Derp.
The reason I'm asking is because there's a scene in the movie where Bruno Kirby, who plays like a lieutenant who's trying to drive Robin Williams out of his job, decides I can be funny too, and he goes on the radio and he does a shitty French accent, and he calls his character, creatively enough, Frenchie. And it's one of those scenes of comedic awkwardness that is just brilliant. And one of the reviews that is sent in by the soldiers in the movie to describe his performance is basically Lieutenant Houck can lick the sweat off a dead man's balls.
Ugh, I was gonna say fuck that guy, but that's pretty close.
To which Robert Wolf says, "I'm not quite sure what all that means, but I think it's a negative review." Yeah, I first of all, I'm going to recommend it because last week I was going through a thing where I was rewatching a bunch of Vietnam era related movies, and Good Morning Vietnam reminded me of how great Robin Williams was on his game as like an improv comedian.
Right.
Sure.
Movies. The movie is basically like between him and a few other choice performances. It's highly recommended, but you just reminded me of it because that French accent was totally
terrible.
Lieutenant Steve.
I need to rewatch that movie because again, I haven't seen it since I was a kid.
Mm-hmm. Barry Levinson at his best. So
Barry Levinson, the director of Toys. Oh my god,
he did good movies for a while.
Hey, I just watched Rain Man not too long ago. That's a fantastic movie.
Yeah. I agree.
I do a pretty mean impersonation of Tom Cruise in that movie. Do you want to hear it?
I think we're going to hear it whether I want to or not.
Underwear is underwear wherever you buy it. Good, right?
Yes, absolutely.
That was okay. Yeah.
Barry Levinson, though, I give Barry Levinson to probably the. I will even give him. It's not a great movie, but I was at least somewhat entertained by Bandits in 2001 with like Bruce Willis and Billy Bob Thornton.
Oh, that's a remake of like a foreign film, right?
I think so. I'm not sure, but I'll even give him that.
You have to look that up. I'm pretty sure that's a remake of a foreign film.
No, it was not. I just looked it up.
No, okay.
You're thinking of Band, yeah, but no. I'll give him to 2001. But after that, like literally the next movie he did was Envy.
Oh, yeah. He did direct that. I paid to watch that on Comcast On Demand, and I remember sitting there and just so ambivalent to what I was watching. Like it was astounding.
That was the start of just nothingness.
Yeah.
But Wag the Dog is great. I enjoy that.
My dad has that. Well, he used to have that on VHS before he threw all his fucking VHS tapes out without telling me. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I have not seen Avalon, but I've heard good things, and I am a fan of damn it,
Frankie Avalon.
Kevin Pollak, and I know that he is a good role. Frankie Avalon. Well, hey, Beach Blanket Bingo is featured prominently in a subplot, well, not a subplot, but just a scene in Good Morning Vietnam.
Ah, bringing it back. All right.
Yeah, they go. He takes his Vietnamese girlfriend to go watch a dubbed version of Beach Blanket Bingo. It's a funny scene. So anyway, the next movie that we have to discuss, Bill Arsenault, you also watched The Big Sick.
The Big Sick.
The Big Sick.
Getting overwhelming positive reviews, this movie.
Yes, no, this is directed by Michael Showalter, who really didn't have to do too much directing. Mm-hmm. This is a very personal movie for the main actor, Kumail
Nanjiani.
Nanjiani.
This is actually based on his real life relationship with a woman,
with Emily V. Gordon,
his wife.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Since me and Ken keep cutting you off, me and Ken listen to a lot of podcasts with both of these people on them.
Yes.
Yeah.
We've kind of,
Kumail and
we're aware of this stuff.
Yeah, they oftentimes appear together because obviously they're married, and they're a good comic team working together, honestly. So.
Yeah, no, I mean he's a hilarious guy even before this movie. Right. I remember seeing him in different TV shows, making bit appearances here and there, and he was always a standout to me.
Mm-hmm. But I cannot tell you how many people keep telling me to watch Silicon Valley, and he's a cast member on that show.
yeah. Every time it's referenced, they're like, "Hey, have you seen Silicon Valley?" Yeah.
I have a lot of friends of mine who love that show keep telling me that I have to watch it, and the main problem is I don't have HBO, so that's the first hurdle to get over.
See, I even have I don't have the excuse because I have HBO. I just can't get into sitcoms. It takes me forever for someone to convince me to watch a sitcom.
Well, this isn't. Do it. I feel like using the term sitcom. And
I know that half-hour comedic show. Then it's going to take me forever to devote time to watching it.
I just think that the term sitcom, a lot of people think laugh track and one camera, or what is it, 3 cameras, fake set, that kind of thing.
Multicam versus single cam.
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but they're both technically sick.
But back to The Big Sick. I have seen the trailer for this multiple times, and I think I see the uniqueness to it. The way they're marketing it is sort of like this quirky indie comedy that anybody can go to see. But the stuff that's there that is representative of their personalities and their specific struggles, I get and I appreciate.
Yeah, I think maybe you're coming from it from a listener standpoint. Someone who's already been filled in on the story. I had no idea about any of this stuff, and so I was coming in. I knew of the main actor Kumail, but I didn't know of his history and his background and his the stuff he went through with his girlfriend. The movie is very dramatic, but it handles it all with a wonderful sense of humor that it never forgets. The movie never stops being funny. It might get awkward at times, but there might be a little bit of tension here and there, or a lot of bit of tension in some bits. But for the most part, he's always got this smirk on his face.
I've heard the movie compared to the recent films of Mike Birbiglia.
That's funny you bring that up because I was literally when I said I saw the trailer and I got that indie quirky comedy vibe. This movie seems to me to be more Sleepwalk with Me and less Garden State. And that's a low blow at Garden State. It is.
It's a low blow at Garden State, but Garden State kind of deserves it, I think.
Yeah.
Garden State has not aged well. I kind of liked it when it came out, but when I rewatched it recently, it felt just so whiny.
I think it's meant for a specific age of people.
Yeah.
Which that makes sense.
And once you exceed that age, you're like,
You're like, this movie's trash,
They made a movie. They already made a movie for white people. It was called Dear White People, and it was for all the white people to watch.
They made a whole TV series.
Actually, you're kind of right about that. It's not playing to the crowd. It's playing to the people it wants in the crowd. But The Big Sick. For those that don't know what it's about, Kumail stars as this pretty much himself, this up and coming stand-up comedian who is a Pakistani American, his Pakistani family, and they're very religious but they're also sweet. They're a nice family. The mother's trying to set him up with arranged marriages, which gets on his nerves, but he doesn't really let it be known. And he eventually finds himself falling head over heels for this woman that was in his audience one night, and then he kind of ends up sparking conversation with. And one thing leads to another, and they're in a really good relationship for a time. They do eventually break up. That's in the trailer. And almost immediately after the breakup, he finds out that she's in the hospital. And as things kind of develop, she's put into a medically induced coma to stabilize the infection that's throughout her body. At which point, Kumail has to now deal with her parents.
It's Kumail. No
Kumail?
N.
Oh, no N?
Kumail.
Okay. Kumail
Yep.
has to deal with her parents, who he's meeting for the first time under very stressful circumstances, plus has to juggle what's going on with his career, plus has to juggle what's going on with his family, so on and so forth. And he takes it all, in stride, kind of. Like, yeah, it is bogging him down a bit, and in one particular scene a lot, but he never seems to forget that, to take things with a smile a little bit. He's always got this way about him where he kind of is able to bring the mood to a comfortable level in the room. You know what I mean? Like, he's that guy who can kind of soften things a little bit, especially a situation that he's in, like in the hospital rooms and all that stuff. He spends a lot of time with his girlfriend's parents, who are played by Holly Hunter and Ray Romano, who I should mention. Holly Hunter has great comedic timing in this movie, considering she's one of the few actresses in this movie who is not really a comedian.
Burn After Reading. What? She was hilarious in that. Wait, no. I'm sorry. I'm thinking of I confuse her and Frances McDormand all the fucking time. I'm so sorry.
I would say Frances McDormand. Yeah, definitely.
I always confuse the two of them because,
by the way,
they both work with the Coen brothers.
Just so you know, Holly Hunter and Frances McDormand are like longtime friends. Apparently, they lived together at one point. So
that doesn't. But again, they have a very similar aura to me, and they've both been in Coen brothers films. So I confuse them all the fucking time.
Okay, well,
I just totally made an ass of myself.
Exactly, that's what I was about to say.
I will say though, and Holly Hunter, by the way, she also, alongside Frances McDormand, has been in Coen Brothers movies as early as Blood Simple. Except in her case, it was just like a small voice role. Okay. She was like the voice of a phone. On a phone line, I believe.
The thing I remember her most from is...
yes, it was, actually.
Oh, Brother, Where Art Thou is what I remember her most from.
Okay. Raising Arizona?
Raising Arizona, yeah, definitely. Well, when I say comedic, usually in those movies, and she did great in those movies, specifically Raising Arizona, but it wasn't so much her timing that was great. It was more... She wasn't being relied on for the comedy, necessarily, so much as reacting to the comedy. In this movie, she actually has quite a few jokes that she does, and they go off without a hitch. I mean, she nails them. Maybe it took a couple takes, I don't know, but she the ones they got, they stick.
A good actress or a good actor can hit their marks and be funny, regardless of if they have a comedic background.
Right. And I'm not trying to suggest anything. I'm just saying,
she was great in The Incredibles also.
Yes, I'm just saying it stood out to me very much so, because I don't normally think Holly Hunter and comedy one and the same.
Fair enough.
If she's in a drama and there's a little bit of comedy, that movie's not a comedy. It's still a drama, but it had a joke or two. This is more of I would say Big Sick is, while it has drama in it, it's more of a romantic comedy than anything. Just in a weird way, because for the majority of the time, the majority of the runtime, the girl component is under a coma, so that's a nice little spin on things.
Well, speaking of Holly Hunter and comedy, I don't mean to change the subject, but
That's okay.
I had her filmography pulled up, and apparently she did an HBO made-for-TV movie in 1993. Listen to the title of this: "The Positively True Adventures of the Alleged Texas Cheerleading Murdering Mom."
Yeah, I remember that movie.
Directed by Michael Ritchie, though. He did the original Bad News Bears, The Candidate. Yeah, there you
go.
Fletch lives, and Fletch. Hey.
Oh, hey, well, that's something. He's not a total douche. Okay.
Well, yeah, Fletch lives. No one can be blamed for that except for Chip.
Okay. So, all right, The Big Sick. I was really taken with this movie. Like I said, specifically its sense of humor, because I relate very much to that. I relate very much to people or groups of people who are able to calm others down, with comedy. Like there's this one great sequence where Ray Romano and Holly Hunter, the parents are having a snack in the hospital cafeteria, and Kumail goes to sit with them, and Ray Romano, this is in the trailer, Ray Romano's like, so 9/11, I've never talked with someone about it. And he's like, and Kumail's like, you've never talked about 9/11 with anyone? It's like his reactions, he knows the guy Ray Romano is trying to make conversation, but also, he's like trying to pick up on the fact that Kumail looks Arab.
Right. Well, I mean, the fact that he's a Muslim. So
he is a Muslim, but he also...
The first thought in his mind is 9/11.
But at the same time, I don't think he knows he's a Muslim. I think he just knows he looks like a Muslim or something.
Right.
And because they don't know much about this guy when they see him, they just know he was their daughter's boyfriend for a time. And so Kumail, they ask him, like, how do you feel about 9/11? And it's the stupidest question. Like, what do you expect a human being to say?
Yeah,
and Kumail says, well, it was a tragedy. We lost 19 of our best guys.
What?
I was like, holy shit. And Holly Hunter's like, what? And he's like, I was just trying to make a joke. I was just kidding. It was an awful tragedy, and but he says it in such a deadpanish kind of way.
Oh, that's Kumail right away. That his humor
definitely,
is like
definitely,
that, so.
yes, absolutely. That's what I got from him. But his delivery of it was just killed me. But this isn't to say the movie is always funny. There are some bits that are really good with just dramatic pathos. Like one bit that was very unexpected. It got me to cry a little bit. And it's not something that you would think, I or anybody watching the movie would cry at. It was actually kind of a scene of very little consequence to the rest of the plot. Kumail was dropping off his date, who is a Pakistani woman that was arranged to meet him from his mother. And she's like, when am I going to see you again? And he's like, I don't think it's a good idea for us to see each other again. I'm kind of with someone. She's in the hospital. He's trying to explain the situation to her. And it's kind of heartbreaking for both of them because, the woman does kind of have interest in him, but at the same time, some of that interest is based on her culture.
Right.
Their shared culture and their shared responsibilities to their families. Because of this culture, the whole marriage thing. And I couldn't help but kind of welling up a little bit. I thought, someone has to for Kumail, right? And for this woman, and I was like, that's
and with arranged marriages, something I've learned about it is some people who really are raised in that culture of arranged marriage, when they are set up on a date with the person who their parents are trying to arrange a marriage with, there's often this cultural obligation feeling where they will literally fall in love much faster with the person because they believe that their family has chosen someone who is like a fit for them. They have trust in their family's decision making.
What does the girl say to Eddie Murphy in Coming to America?
Oh, I'll do anything for you, master.
Yeah, something like that. I can't think of arranged marriages without thinking about that movie.
And then she like hops around like a dog and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, ooh, ooh, ooh. You know?
Still better
like,
than the girl he sees later in the film who like pulls a flame to her hand and goes, "I was Joan of Arc as a child in another
a former life. That actually, I probably would have gone with that one. Actually, that sounds
fireproof at least. Hey,
fireproof. There you go.
I would surpass her for the chick that played Joan of Arc in Bill and Ted.
What I want, yeah, that's definitely. True. But what I want to know is what was she doing in a bar? The Joan of Arc woman. I mean, like, what was she doing in that bar?
Maybe drinking flaming beverages.
Yes, but I think that was part of the joke. Was that like you wouldn't expect her to just show up with these two guys, you know, right now. And then, of course, Arsenio dresses up like a woman, and he's like, yeah, I'm looking for two guys to be with. Yeah, you guys are hot.
Oh, shit. Jane Wheatland of the Go-Go's plays Joan of Arc and Bill and Ted.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't even realize that was her. I was like, it looks like her. I had to Google it.
I love that bit where she's leading the exercise.
She knocks the instructor off the fucking podium.
she just starts working out with everybody leading the crew.
I'm going to warn you guys that a huge freaking storm's rolling in right now, and if the power goes out, I may lose you. So let's hope that doesn't happen.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll try to break this. Yeah. But The Big Sick, I highly recommend. You know, it. Some people are saying this is going to be a Best Picture contender. It's an early Best Picture contender, and I have no problem with that.
I would love to see that. It's about time that a straight up comedy gets more consideration.
That's true. Comedies don't really get that level of like you said, consideration. It's a real shame too, because there are a lot of great comedies that come about. Excuse me, guys. Sneeze. Excuse me.
You all right there?
Yeah, I'm fine now.
Yeah, it's one of those things where a comedy will generally be considered for a Best Picture, usually if there's a gimmick behind it, like The Artist being a silent film and things like that. But I think the last movie that was nominated that has, or not nominated, the last Oscar-winning comedy. That wasn't like a gimmicky Oscar-winning comedy was probably Annie Hall.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Because, I mean, you could consider Birdman a comedy to an extent, and that still has the gimmick behind it of it being, made to feel like a single shot.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So, yeah, I would definitely love to see The Big Sick. From what I understand, it's killing it locally. Mm-hmm. When I went to go see it in the theater, at a local theater, it was in New Orleans. It was just smallish, movie theater. It was packed. I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting just a few people, but and this was like Sunday early afternoon. It wasn't like late at night or anything like that. It was almost a matinee-ish kind of crowd. Maybe they were just there for the price. I don't know. But
the movie's already made $17 million domestically, and it hasn't even played in. It's played in 200. Or wait, how many screens? I'm sorry, 2,500 screens. So that's actually pretty big, but still,
that's pretty good. Yeah, that's still it was just very surprising.
Yeah, for a movie of this is a movie that, depending on if the distributors, this could have easily been like a straight to streaming release, because movies like this tend to get ignored.
Yeah, and that would have been very unfortunate too. Very, very unfortunate, because no one would watch it. Yeah, it would fall way under the radar.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So I will look forward to seeing that. All right. So what we'll talk about now is we have one more, a couple more movies that we want to get into. But what I'd like to talk about now is the actor Martin Landau. Hello? Uh-oh. Did I lose you guys?
Oh, shit.
You still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. I'm still here. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Sorry,
I can hear you.
I was trying to get off of a webcam and mute, and I was on mute because I was like sniffling a lot, and I kind of wanted to not do that.
Oh, that's okay. So anyway, what I was saying is the actor Martin Landau passed away this week, at the age of 89. So certainly, he lived a full life, and It's this is more of a celebration of his career. Landau was an actor who I first came into direct contact with through his performance in Ed Wood.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah.
Which, of course, is the film he's probably most celebrated for. He got the Academy Award win for that, and I think rightly so. His Bela Lugosi is just an incredible character, and what's hilarious about it is when you hear about the fact that he kind of played Bela Lugosi unlike what Bela Lugosi was as a person. He apparently Bela did not curse, and he was not at all as outspoken. Was apparently a very humble person. And it doesn't matter, though, because he wasn't playing Bela Lugosi to be like an accurate representation of the actor. He was playing Bela Lugosi to be basically he was playing the Ed Wood version of Bela Lugosi. When you think of that, what would the inner monologue be for someone who is reduced to being in movies like Bride of the Monster?
Let's shoot this fucker!
Exactly. But as the years have gone on, I've seen more and more things that Landau has appeared in, and while by no means have I seen everything, he's what's fascinating about him, he's one of those actors who appeared in smaller roles in a ton of bigger movies, bigger roles in a lot of B movies, and lots of great TV appearances. Most notably, in my opinion, is his performance in a couple of solid episodes of The Twilight Zone.
Which ones are those?
The best one, in my opinion, is the Twilight Zone episode, The Jeopardy Room.
I don't know if I know that one.
So the Jeopardy Room is one of the rare Twilight Zone episodes that does not have any kind of a supernatural twist. It's actually there is a twist to it, but the twist is more realistic. It was an episode that was written by Rod Serling and directed by Richard Donner, and it came out in 1964. And the plot is basically Martin Landau plays a Russian KGB agent who is trying to defect to the West. And he's in a hotel room awaiting his escape when he receives a phone call from a room across the street. And the person who calls him is a KGB hitman who basically tells him that he's booby-trapped the room. And he gives him an option to live if he manages to find and disarm the bomb in the room within 3 hours.
I've heard of that one.
Oh, it's a wonderful episode. It's in a half hour. It goes through. It's one of if you like a good Cold War spy kind of lark, this is a good one to watch.
I don't, but I like a good Twilight Zone.
It's pretty much all I watch. So.
Yeah, it's a good Twilight Zone too. I will say that. He was also in the Alfred Hitchcock Hour, The Outer Limits. Get Smart, Columbo. He was in the Harlem Globetrotters on Gilligan's Island, Bill Leon. He was
flabbergasted by those movies.
Yeah, I was gonna say the one reference that he would really get, he didn't hear me say.
If you're talking about me, my internet just lagged. What did I miss?
I was saying that he was in the Harlem Globetrotters on Gilligan's Island.
There you go. That's yeah.
See what I mean?
Was he really?
Yeah, he was.
What?
Yeah. If you want to see a Martin Landau performance, there's a movie to watch.
Clearly, me and Seth MacFarlane have the same frame of reference for fucking old 70s shit.
Oh yeah, he was also in the 1980s reboot of The Twilight Zone. He was in Kung Fu the movie with David Carradine.
I haven't seen that. I've seen the Twilight Zone movie, which is separate from that show.
Mm-hmm.
I feel kind of bad, guys, because I only, aside from Ed Wood, I only really have seen Martin Landau in Ready to Rumble, the WCW movie.
Oh my God, he is in that! Oh my God!
I remember him very specifically in that because he plays this like old-timey wrestling coach who's
And that was after Ed Wood, after he won an Oscar. He was in that flaming pile of trash.
He takes down Perry Saturn and fucking Sid Vicious in a handicap match at one point. They come into his apartment and try to like beat him up or something, and he beats them up. Well, he was also in the last film I saw him in was a movie with Christopher Plummer called Remember.
Yes,
it was a recent film.
I wanted to see Remember. Was that any good?
Not really.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't terrible. Christopher Plummer was great in it, as a matter of fact. It's just it was kind of
Christopher Plummer was great in 9, the animated film, but it didn't save 9.
Martin Landau was also in the animated film 9, by the way.
They must be friends, I guess. I don't know.
He was also in the animated film Frankenweenie.
Yes, he was.
I haven't watched that yet, but that again, the Tim Burton.
Martin Landau was actually in the original Frankenweenie, by the way.
Frankenweenie isn't bad. It just has a bad ending.
I don't like Frankenweenie at all.
I had somebody just the other day tell me to watch it, and I'm a fan of stop motion and Tim Burton, so I kind of feel obligated. I did hate what it is. I was severely underwhelmed by The Corpse Bride, though, so that's kind of...
Frankenweenie was building to something really good, and then it just kind of falls
Just watch the original half-hour short. It's much better.
Yeah, it kind of just fell into the Frankenstein story.
Okay. Yeah, it's that simple. And a few more Landau performances. Actually, his film debut was as a character in Pork Chop Hill from 1959, which, Bill Leon, didn't you watch Pork Chop Hill relatively recently?
Climbing up on Pork Chop Hill. No, I don't know what that is.
It's a Korean War movie. I thought you had said that maybe it was just on the background. You mentioned it.
I don't. Oh, I was probably talking about what was on TCM at the time.
Yeah, with Gregory Peck.
Yeah, I feel like I was just scoping TCM, and I was like, "What's on TCM right now?"
Oh, okay, gotcha. And he had a small role in North by Northwest. If you've ever seen Nevada Smith, he was in there. And in one of my best frames of reference, though, he was in the highly underrated Francis Ford Coppola movie Tucker, The Man in His Dream.
Oh, Tucker, yeah.
Yeah, if you haven't seen that one, it's the true story about the guy who created the Tucker car, which was run out of business by the big 3 automakers, and it was kind of a futuristic car for its time. But it has Jeff Bridges. Martin Landau plays his kind of shystery lawyer, and it's a great performance. It's one of the funnier characters in the movie. And the movie is it's one of those dramas that has a lot of humor in it and is very creatively written. So I would say if you're looking for a good Martin Landau performance, that's a good one. It also is noteworthy because it stars Elias Koteas in that brief time in the late 80s, early 90s when
Casey Jones.
Exactly, when Casey Jones was a thing.
When he was in demand, yes.
He was in The Adventures of Pinocchio.
Yeah.
With Jonathan Taylor Thomas?
Yes.
Yes.
Is that have you watched that recently, Hawk?
No, I remember seeing it when I was a kid. And
I saw it in theater, yeah.
I thought that movie was a piece of shit before I knew what a piece of shit was.
When I think
back to... He wasn't in the Roberto Benigni Pinocchio.
Oh, God.
I don't know what that
He wasn't in the...
reference.
Oh, if you haven't seen it, you... Oh.
Yeah. I don't know why. Nobody can make a good Pinocchio movie.
Except for Disney and the original.
Yeah.
Yeah, but remember the Drew Carey Pinocchio?
I don't. What is that?
Oh,
on the Drew Carey TV show?
Yeah. Wasn't that a made-for-TV thing?
Yeah, Disney did a made-for-TV. I think it was called Geppetto, and it was like a musical, and it was really, really unique.
I thought you were talking about like a spoof they did on the Drew Carey show. Which
no,
those were usually
Drew Carey plays Geppetto in a fucking full-length movie.
But when they would do movie homages on the Drew Carey show, like those were good. Usually, from what I remember, at least the Rocky Horror one they did was good.
That was great. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Now,
that was a bit of an aside, but yeah, it's. I just want to just pull this up really quick because it was Drew Carey as Geppetto. I think it was Julia Louis-Dreyfus as fucking fairy lady.
The Blue Fairy. She's called the Blue Fairy.
Yeah. Brent Spiner was Stromboli.
What?
Yeah.
Did he have a fat suit?
No, but he had a really dope ass musical number.
It's dope.
I feel compelled to watch this.
You should.
So I have got a George A. Romero, which we'll be talking about him later in the show, connection to Martin Landau, though. And I got this connection because I...
You used Oracle of Bacon?
well, no, I actually was looking for a Martin Landau film to watch that I hadn't seen, and I came upon a slasher film from 1982 called Alone in the Dark, which stars Jack Palance, Donald Pleasance, and Martin Landau, and has special effects by Tom Savini, which is your George Romero.
Kill Your Grandpa slasher film?
Well, that's the thing. The plot of the movie, even though they get top billing, it's technically the actual star is the actor Dwight Schultz, and
not Dwight Schrute. Okay.
Oh,
right.
Okay. There you go. I was confused.
But yeah, but anyway, the plot of the movie is this this doctor is taking on a new job at a psychiatric facility, and Donald Pleasance is the head doctor at the facility, and his character, Dr. Leo Bain, he plays, is a pot-smoking kind of hippie-ish character he believes there's no such thing as patients. They are voyagers.
What?
Oh yeah, it's his character is hilarious. He you know, if you like laughing at, you know, kind of hippie-ish people who have just the wrong ideas about everything, it's a great performance.
Drink your pee, man. It's got great antioxidants in it.
Man, have you tried that homeopathic beer? It's just a glass
Made
of
from
water.
my pee.
But yeah,
Made from my pee.
just for flavoring. But anyway, so Jack Palance and Martin Landau are internees at this psychiatric facility.
Internees?
Yes, they're patients. They're voyagers.
I'm glad. I was going to say, I'm glad somebody caught that.
What internee? That's
I thought you misspoke when trying to say attorney.
Or interns.
No, I understand. I understand what you meant now. Interns, internees, whatever. But it sounded like you were trying to say attorney.
That's how.
No, that is totally a real word. It's somebody who's been confined.
Yeah, it's like a prison.
I just a fucking dummy.
They've been interned. Yeah.
Yeah. So Jack Palance is a former soldier with shell shock, and
she can intern me all night long.
And Martin Landau is a pyromaniac preacher.
That's what Donald Trump said.
So the plot of the movie
all night long
is very simple. Basically, Jack Palance and Martin Landau become convinced that the doctor, the new doctor, has killed the old one, and so they break out of the prison when a power outage occurs, and they proceed to kill like everyone for no real reason. It's the movie's kind of a parody of slasher films. It's a mixture of comedy and horror, and it has some really fun kills. It's not a particularly consistent movie, but I had a lot of fun with it. There's a scene where Jason shows up for no reason whatsoever, and just like a dude who's totally Jason just like pops into the movie in cameos.
Is that kind of like in Rick and Morty where they have the safe version that rips off Freddy?
Yeah, kind of. It's kind of a Scary Terry sort of deal.
You can run, but you can't hide, bitch.
But like, so he unfortunately doesn't get a good line because Jason doesn't talk. But still, it's one of those things where a character shows up in a hockey mask, fucking murders someone, and then just kind of disappears, and they don't reference it again. But the gore effects are wonderful, so I'm not surprised Tom Savini did it. There's this great scene where a guy gets hit with like a garden trowel in the neck, and it like tears his throat out.
Nice.
Yeah, it's if you're looking for a horror movie that doesn't take itself too seriously and stars two of the three really of the great all-time classical B movie performers, you can't go wrong with this.
All right. So another movie that we have to talk about is The Little Hours, which Bill Arsenault saw.
Little Owls?
Yes.
The Little
Yes,
Hour.
The Little Hours.
This is a
Hours.
sequel to Zack Snyder's Guardians of Ga'Hoole, right?
Yeah, and also the Hours with Nicole Kidman.
Oh, right. Yes, we took the
It's got
hours.
a cameo with Gerard Butler from 300.
We made them smaller. Now they're
they made this is based on them. This is a prequel when they were little kids. The Little Hours.
The Little Hours is a movie that stars Dave Franco. So immediately, I need you to sell me on this movie because I'm already worried.
Well, I'm trying to remember what the name of the book is, but it's based off of a really old. Hang on, let me pull up the. Well, actually, you know what, Ken? You pull up the Wikipedia for The Little Hours.
I have it up now.
Okay, it's based on a story in this big book. What is it called?
The Decameron.
I want to see this.
Yes, this stars Aubrey Plaza, Alison Brie. What's the other girl's name? Kate
McCucci from Garfunkel and Oates.
Yes, she's great in that.
Comedy chick. This is not a comedy film?
This is a comedy film.
The Decameron is a collection of novellas by a 14th century Italian author, Giovanni Boccaccio. That's interesting.
Yeah, and so these are like tales of like debauchery and comedy and ridiculously, and
it has Adam Pally too.
Yeah, it's got Nick Offerman. It's got
John C. Reilly, Paul Reiser,
John C. Reilly, Molly Shannon.
We were just a couple of Pallies.
Right.
Go ahead. Adam Pally is really high on my list of actors I wouldn't get drunk with.
Wouldn't or would?
What do you do after that?
After what?
Yeah.
After you get drunk with him, what do you do?
I don't know. Go cause mischief.
Oh, what like Jackass? Like Jeff Tremaine's going to be there filming you?
No, not like Jackass.
Chris Pontius is going to come out of the corner naked or something?
Maybe.
I'll tell you what you do.
I'm Bunny Lifeguard.
What you do after you drink with Adam Pally is quiz him about happy endings. Get it? Because he was on the show. The show. Happy.
The TV show. Okay, I don't know.
I got it because no one fucking watched it.
Yeah, no one did.
I know what you're talking about though, but I never.
One of my favorite videos is Adam Pally's audition tape for The Late Show.
We were just a couple of Pallies.
It's really fantastic because he has Ben Schwartz as his co-host.
Oh, Ben Schwartz is amazing.
Yeah.
So The Little Hours is about a convent of nuns out in the middle of nowhere, pretty much, who are led by John C. Reilly and Molly Shannon. The three nuns in particular that are focused on are Alison Brie, Aubrey Plaza, and Kate McCucci. Alison Brie is kind of the one who's like out of place. You know, she's there because her dad made a large sum of made a donation to this particular church, and this particular church, like the Catholic Church, made a particularly big donation to get her there. And I guess she thought this would be good for her, but now she's having second thoughts.
This sounds identical to her character in Glow, by the way.
Okay, Aubrey Plaza.
Not the financial influence, but just like she gets into this situation and she's like, "Is this for me? Am I supposed to be doing?" Yeah.
Okay, so Aubrey Plaza, in turn, plays a kind of a reckless nun, one who's very violent and aggressive and sarcastic, which is pretty much Aubrey Plaza. Like this is basically meant for her. You know, she's done these roles before. And Kate McCucci's like the reserved, awkward one. Dave Franco plays a servant at a castle that's like a couple miles or so away for Nick Offerman. Now, Dave Franco is having an affair with Nick Offerman's wife, and yeah, I know, right? And he tries everything he can to save himself, but it doesn't really work. He has to run away, and he ends up meeting John C. Reilly, and they strike up a relationship where they like to get drunk with each other, and so John C. Reilly's like, "Look, you're in trouble. How about I help you out by taking you to my convent, and you can pretend to be a mute deaf servant, and that will save you some time, so you can move on to some other place." And he's like, "All right." So he gets there, and that kickstarts the rest of the movie, which is basically a kind of a weird sexual awakening romp involving witchcraft and lesbian action a little bit.
Okay.
Not a lot, but just a little bit. It's never done in a pornographic manner, but it's done.
I'm glad Bill Leon was sold on Awakening, but was turned off by
witchcraft.
Yeah, witchcraft.
Yeah. Oh, witchcraft. When I say witchcraft, okay.
Well, because here's the thing. Like immediately, I'm thinking of Madonna in 4 Rooms, and I'm like, oh, get that shit.
No, it's not like that. It's not like that.
We're gonna have sex, except we're not.
You have to try to be.
We actually do see grinding and stuff like that happen in this.
From Dave Franco's real IRL wife.
Who's his real wife?
Allison Brie and Dave Franco are married.
Seriously? Wow, I didn't know that. Yeah, they do get it on in this movie.
They are married. Yes.
Bang a gone.
Okay, well then great. That's allowed under the church rules. So anyways, this movie reminds me a lot of Your Highness, in that it plays on the joke of them being nuns, and they're not supposed to cuss and do bad things, but they do.
But they do anyway. Okay. It's kind of like that. As soon as you bring up Your Highness, I'm just like reminded.
But unfortunately, guys, Your Highness is a better movie.
Oh no! Oh God! Okay.
I've gone on record to say I didn't hate Your Highness.
I did, but I watched more stoner films than you do, and I smoke weed, and that movie was that movie was just the bottom of the barrel tier stoner film, like stoner.
That was
maybe not
Your
bottom
Highness
of the barrel.
was,
there's worse, but that was bad for something that went to theaters.
Your Highness was a decent idea with a way too big of a budget.
Yeah,
like there were a lot of points in the movie where you could see them just trying to burn through the money.
Yeah, sometimes I find a lot of entertainment from watching people shovel dollar bills into the furnace.
It was true.
So this movie, The Little Hours, it never feels as committed as Your Highness did. What I mean is to the joke. In that movie, they really beat that horse dead, well after it's dead. This movie kind of tries to pull itself back a couple of times and reel itself in here and there in order to get to a bigger meaning. Like at the end of the movie, I don't want to give anything away, but at the end of the movie, it kind of tries to reach an epiphany of sorts, like something to kind of pull everything together and wrap it up in a nice bow. And really, it didn't have to. It really should have been beyond that. It really could have just been this fun, weird, raunchy comedy about a group of nuns who are kind of crazy. So it ends up being just this movie that kind of falls flat on its face, unfortunately.
I remember. I didn't realize that I'd seen an advertisement for this movie because Nick Offerman looks like a Game of Thrones character in this, right?
Yeah, he does, actually.
I had assumed that this was like some kind of parody of Game of Thrones.
No.
Looks like I was wrong.
No, not at all. This this is, I don't even know. Honestly, I don't even know what this is really being a spoof of, because if I'm not mistaken, the source material it's based on was in and of itself kind of a spoof in some ways, or at least a tale of debauchery and mischief, So I guess this is an updated version of it, but I don't know. It treads familiar territory all too often in its little subplots, like involving the nuns and their inner relationships. It also doesn't really do all that much with what it has. Like each nun has their own gimmick, and they play it up, but they never do anything extra with it. It's just, this is the crazy one, and this is the one who's kind of unsure about herself, and this is the awkward one.
Oh, so it is like Glow.
Yeah, it is kind of like Glow, except it doesn't. Maybe it's not. Maybe because Glow is episodic and better directed.
Oh yeah, Glow is compelling
and better written, and better everything. This movie's ultimate point is kind of bold a little bit, and that is that maybe sin is okay, but or that there is no sin or something. Like it comes
Didn't Sausage Party make this point last year? I mean, I'm sure tons of other films have made this point, but like, didn't we just do this not that long ago?
Personally, while I didn't like Sausage Party, I can see where Sausage Party would be better than the Literal Hours, and that is in getting to the point better and being a bit bolder and a bit more brazen. I don't know. It just never really feels like it comes together all that well. I wrote something to the effect of the movie wants blasphemy out of its mouth and spirit in its heart, but it never reconciles how much is too much.
I see.
So it's
they're afraid to step on toes.
Yeah, which is funny because the very premise is to step on toes of this movie. You're about it's a movie with nuns who are out of their friggin' minds.
I think maybe that's why I appreciated Sausage Party more than you guys, because that movie just did not give a fuck. Like, it stepped on all the toes.
Yeah, well, I mean, I also thought it went a little too over the top, Sausage Party.
It did, but I mean, it's a cartoon. Like, that was...
I understand, but even cartoons can kind of rein it in a little bit. Just a little, not a lot. But then again, if we're talking degrees, I mean, who's the person, who's the authority on degrees? Is there an authority on degrees? So Sausage Party brings up a lot of really interesting questions with answers that aren't very easy. But The Little Hours does really nothing.
What I'm saying is that this film needed to end in a big fat orgy, like as all films do.
Actually, I was expecting this movie to end that way, and it didn't. It ended more like, oh, they're riding off into the sunset kind of thing,
like the Corsican brothers.
Well, not literally into the sunset, but it ends on a positive note, but it doesn't end on a brazen note like Sausage Party, which was let's all just fuck. That's what this movie should have been. It should have been something like that.
Did you ever see by any chance Hot Shots Part 2?
Of course.
That movie,
I haven't seen it in a long time,
that movie ends with them literally flying a helicopter into the sunset, where the helicopter reaches the sun, and then all of a sudden you hear like flame erupt and smoke starts billowing from the helicopter.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So I was just reminded of that when mentioning the sunset. But all right, I think we've talked this movie, the littlest nun or whatever.
Speaking
of
James Franco, though, have you guys seen the teaser trailer for The Disaster Artist?
I did just see it today.
Yes,
I did see it, and
it's hilarious.
I'm unimpressed.
Yeah, I'm unimpressed too.
So I'm told that it has to do with Franco's accent, right?
It has nothing to do with his accent. The comic timing in the trailer was way off. I don't like the idea of them staging like that same scene over and over again. To me, that just seems, even if that did happen in like the book that it's based on, it's such a cliche.
I think the most interesting part for me is the accent, and we don't need to spend much time talking about this, but I just wanted to throw it out there. The accent didn't sound authentic. It just sounded like James Franco imitating Tommy Wiseau.
I could barely pick up on him attempting an accent.
Yeah.
What is line?
But what I am told is that in the actual movie The Room, his line readings were so bad they dubbed over them later. So I wonder if it seems congruent with Franco's filmmaking style to do that same thing. He's going to dub over his lines with a better impression.
That is very true, by the way, Hawk. If you didn't know, all of the dialogue was redubbed. Like what were they?
Yeah, I knew that.
ADR. Yeah.
ADR. Yes, I fucked that up. But what I want to say about this trailer is, God fucking damn it, Dave Franco is the spitting image of Greg Sestero.
That's very true. I will give
that with that beard and shit. Yeah, like I'm just amazed. I'm like, holy shit.
What I really liked in that teaser was how Dave Franco, you can't disassociate the fact that James and Dave are brothers, and at the same time, James is playing Tommy Wiseau and Dave is playing Greg Sestero. And if you know anything about the backstory, if you've read the book, they had a friendship before the movie, started and everything. And so in the teaser, Greg Sestero, Dave Franco, he's like, don't worry, bro, we'll get it. We'll get it.
I did appreciate that. I felt there was a lot of charm to that. You know what my most exciting moment of the teaser was recognizing that Paul Scheer was in the scene with them.
Yeah.
It also really throws me off to hear Seth Rogen's voice on the set of.
Wow, yeah, he's playing a major player in the story.
Yeah, it just immediately throws me out.
It is worth noting that out of 12 reviews counted so far on Rotten Tomatoes, it has a 92%.
Okay.
But it doesn't release till like December, right?
And those 12 critics are the ones who were treated to a special advanced screening and probably were wine and dine.
Not necessarily.
Well, okay,
I mean, it's The Verge.
That's a horrible That's a horrible misconception.
It is. Consequence of Sound. The movie has been done for a long time. It's just the distribution schedule has
They're
been
going for Oscars.
Rocky. Yeah, they're going for Oscars.
Yeah, definitely.
And I actually it's had screenings too, not just wine and dine critics. I mean, people on Reddit, average people that got invited to a screening, they said it was really funny.
Okay.
And they also said Wiseau was at the screening and did not look happy.
Another concern that I have is this is a movie that is directed by James Franco.
Yeah, that is a valid concern.
That is, but I don't think he's so much a bad filmmaker as he's way too prolific for a guy who does everything.
I think he takes himself way too seriously.
And he takes himself way too seriously as a director. Yes.
I don't even know if it's. I mean, I haven't seen any films he's directed, but I remember a few years ago, very specifically, I'll never forget it. He rented out in New York to put on an art gallery. And he said it had something to do with the TV show Three's Company. And he just had a bunch of digital projectors showing Three's Company episodes on different screens. And that was his art gallery. And I was like, fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. Because you're probably charging like $45, $50 to get into this fucking thing.
At least Shia LaBeouf has the common courtesy to personally involve himself. Like he will appear in his performance art bullshit is stuff that he at least has some creativity behind it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I lost my train of thought there, but
you were taken by Shia LaBeouf's mugshot.
Well,
what was that movie that he was making? I think it was based on Cormac McCarthy and a guy rapes a dead body or something.
Child of
It was
God?
called. I was going to say Swiss Army Man.
Dead body.
Man rapes dead body.
I don't know what it's
my
called,
God.
but he's done some work on other from other authors. Let me. I'm gonna do I bet you anything Ken has already done a Wikipedia search.
Actually, I do not, because I was getting into a rabbit hole looking up information about the upcoming and long in development hell Fletch sequels.
Oh,
Yeah,
That's not going to happen.
I'm looking up at James Franco's filmography.
He makes some interesting stuff. He's super ambitious, and that often his reach very often exceeds his grasp, which is disappointing because he's a very smart guy and very passionate.
He got caught talking to teenagers on Instagram.
Now he did a good movie that was called Interior Leather Bar.
He got caught.
Yeah, that one
talking
was
to
good.
teenagers on Instagram.
Did you watch it?
What are you talking about, Bill?
Yeah, I watched it. I watched it on Netflix. I really enjoyed it.
Bill Leon is right. James Franco was implicated in supposedly being on Instagram talking to underage women.
Mm-hmm.
Oh well, that's not cool if he is doing it.
That's alleged. But
Your little brother Dave got married. He's not caught up in this shit.
How old is Alison Brie?
Old enough
Just
to
joking.
party.
Old enough to party.
I just made a fucking super bad reference.
she's a finely aged Brie.
Okay. All right. Next movie.
Cheese references.
Next topic.
Apparently
That was terrible.
Apparently he's gonna do a Bukowski movie called Bukowski.
That was made in 2013.
Oh,
then-
really?
He's going to do the
Okay.
Freddie Mercury movie. It's going to be called Mercury. He's going to do
It's gonna be a fantastic Freddie Mercury. It's gonna be a good
Who's-
role.
Timothy Leary. He's making a Timothy Leary movie just called Leary.
It just reminds me of
not to be.
the episode of the Boondocks when the Martin Luther King episode of the Boondocks, when they come up with the idea of Cuba Gooding Jr. in King, the Martin Luther King story.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, okay.
And then, of course, Cuba Gooding Jr. has played Martin Luther King subsequently in a movie. So
I think the movie we're thinking of, or you're thinking of, Hawk, is Child of God, the James Franco Cormac McCarthy
Yes.
movie.
he actually has done a couple Cormacs.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is the one with raping a dead body, but it seems to involve a fall into madness and degradation. So maybe it does have that. Tim Blake Nelson's in it, so maybe that.
Hey.
Yep, that's the movie.
He was in Fan Four Stick.
Fan Force, yeah, he played the guy who chewed gum the entire movie.
Yes, he did, like a cow.
Huh?
Chewed like a cow.
Oh, chewed like a cow. Okay, and then chewed gum like a cow. I was about to say.
Well, no, cows don't chew gum; they chew grass.
So Hawk Ripjaw, you saw Friends from college.
Yeah, the new Netflix series, written and produced by Nicholas Stoller and his wife, and directed by Stoller himself. It's okay.
And that's all we have to say, ladies and gentlemen.
And that's it, folks.
Here's a problem that I have with this show, and I kind of threw together a rough draft of a review. If I decide to continue it and publish a full review, I will. But it's got some really, really good stuff in it and some really disappointing stuff. It's very, I don't want to say uneven. It's great and bad at the same time sometimes.
It's like when your belt doesn't fit and you're constantly pulling your pants back up.
It's got Fred Savage in it, and you know what? He loves the Power Glove. It's so bad.
Well, also, Fred Savage, like he directed episodes of Sunny in Philadelphia. Like yes. Fred Savage is he was in that TV show with Rob Lowe, right? The
Grinder.
The Grinder, that's it.
Which is it's a good show.
I watched the pilot and I liked it. Yeah.
Not to be confused with Ben Savage.
His brother,
so Fred Savage is good in this.
Ben Savage might be a pedophile.
Okay.
What?
I would love for you to ask me more, but just continue.
This is an ensemble comedy with Keegan-Michael Key,
the brother of a pedophile, Fred Savage,
Nat Faxton, Colby Smulders, Greg German, Billy Eichner.
I love Billy Eichner.
Yeah, he is really good in this. He is
he's good in everything.
Fred Savage's boyfriend in this movie.
Okay.
Interessante.
And Billy Eichner is actually openly gay as well.
In real life or on the show? His character on the show?
Well, both. But
yeah, everybody knows he's gay in real life.
No, he's gay in the show because he's dating Fred Savage's character.
He's gay in a lot of roles that he plays. So,
but that fits. Then he's good at it.
I'm not badmouthing him. I was just commenting on typecasting.
It's like, he does that all the time.
I was commenting on typecasting.
It's like Billy, you're reminding me of in Gilbert Gottfried's podcast. Anytime an actor comes up who happens to be Jewish, Gilbert has to comment on the fact that he's a Jew.
Not only that, it's funny when they start talking about Walt Disney and who's racist.
Yes,
it'd be like Walt Disney wouldn't have liked him or some shit.
Yes, he didn't like Jew.
Yeah. But
anyway, this show is about a bunch of friends. They were in college together, and now it's years later. They're all reaching. They're on their way to 40, and they're getting close. And they come back together. They're just brought back together in New York in kind of a regressive sort of way. When years later you should be continuing to grow and develop and moving on with life, but they've actually retracted back into their old selves. And that's one of the main points of the show, is that these are a bunch of people that are stuck at the age of 25 or so, and they can't get out of it. The show deals very heavily in uncomfortable situations and unpleasant characters. That's like the main crux of it. And I think the show's biggest fault is that it doesn't know when to stop with that. If that makes sense. Mm-hmm. It gets to the point where the characters are so unlikable and the situation's so uncomfortable that the show almost becomes unpleasant to watch in some situations. But then it turns around and it makes some pretty clever escalations of these situations. So Keegan-Michael Key's character and Colby Smulders' characters are married, and they're trying to have a kid. So they have a very, very specific. It's the IVF or IFV, whatever it's called. No, IVF, in vitro fertilization. procedure where she's got to inject herself in the stomach with the shot, and then at precisely 9:30 p.m. on this one night, she's got to inject herself in the butt with the final injection so she can get fertilized.
What?
And what?
In the butt.
In the butt.
No,
cheek.
I mean,
The
I accidentally gave Ken a punchline, but I'm saying, like, what chemical goes in your butt?
I don't know.
Well, anything can go in your
know.
butt. You can get shots
Right.
in your butt for anything because it's got a muscle there that.
Is it wrong that I immediately the image that comes in my mind of a giant turkey baster?
No,
That's
you're
up your
okay
butt.
for thinking that.
Not in your butt cheek.
So the situation is set up, obviously. I mean, you can't not set up a plot like that and not have one of the characters lose the final shot when they're like 15 minutes away from having to do it. And of course they do. They have it in a little paper bag, and they go to a friend's house, and the different bags accidentally get swapped. And when they get home, they're opening up the bag, and it's just condiments. So they go back and they find it. Then that's when they escalate it into something that's actually funny, where they go into the bathroom and
she injects mustard into her butt.
No, they find the chemical that they need to use, and Key's character Ethan, he wants to wash his hands first so it's sanitary, but he can't find any soap, so he just uses lotion. But from the lotion, his hands are so slippery that he drops the vial and it breaks. So they have to find a new source of the drug, and so they go to a drugstore and they can't find it. He doesn't have it, and so then they go bother Billy Eichner's character, which is their doctor. He and Fred Savage are out to dinner because it's Fred Savage's birthday, and they keep running back and going back to that restaurant to bother them on their birthday so they can find this chemical. So that's kind of like where I'm struggling with this show and how I feel about it, because there are some extremely funny moments on it where I laughed really hard, and there are others where I'm like, this is just, I've seen this before, or this is making me so uncomfortable I don't want to watch it. Like, you remember the episode of The Office, Scott's Tots? Do you remember that one?
I don't watch the U.S. Office very much.
This is the episode where Michael Scott, he had years ago promised a group of like preschoolers or something that he would put them all through college once they graduated high school. And it was in a kind of a disadvantaged neighborhood with lots of crime and stuff like that, minorities and everything. And that motivated them all to get through high school. And the time comes for them they're graduating high school, and they're so excited because Michael Scott promised to put them through college. But when Michael Scott made that promise, he still had aspirations to be a millionaire by that time, but he wasn't. So to console all of them, he bought each of them a laptop battery instead.
That's all you for.
It is a horribly uncomfortable scene. Like, every time I watch The Office and I'm going through it, I skip that episode because I can't handle it. It's excruciating
because of the fact that you get to see disappointment on the face of all those kids. Is that?
Yes. They even do like a little dance number and like a stomp routine for him.
And he's crying. Michael Scott's crying through this whole thing.
Yeah. They really go as hard as they can on making it uncomfortable. And then there are a lot of scenes in Friends from College that do the same thing. So it's predictable, and there are a lot of really uncomfortable moments. But then right when you're like, this is just too much, the show comes out with a genuinely funny joke, like that kind of Stoller weirdness. One critic put it really, really well. Like, Nicholas Stoller is a Judd Apatow protege, and while Judd Apatow's shtick is adults acting like children, Nicholas Stoller's his forte is adults that never even became adults. They're still children. You see that in Neighbors. You see that in
Forgetting Sarah Marshall.
Forgetting Sarah Marshall. Thank you. Get Into the Greek. That kind of thing. Like these adults who are still children.
Yeah, the state of
and that kind of humor can work really well. And then, of course, there are also some really great moments. There's some really great character moments.
Did Nicholas Stoller direct the Muppets?
What?
Did Nicholas Stoller direct the Muppets from 2011?
Yes, I think so.
Jason Segel's character in that never grew up, so yeah, that adds up.
Yeah. I mean, the Muppets is a little bit different, but
I understand that's different, but it does
kind of
actually fit into the theme that you're describing.
Yeah.
Would you get away from the microphone?
What?
So what, did you walk away from the microphone? It sounded like this. Yeah.
By the way, The Muppets was directed by James Bobbin, and Nicholas Fuller co-wrote it, though.
Yeah, okay, that's right.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
But there are some really, really good character moments too. I mean, there is, during this whole time, Ethan is cheating on Lisa with Sam, who they went to college with. And here's the thing: is that Ethan and Sam have been sleeping together since before Ethan got married. So they've had one long, friends with benefits situation for the last 20 years, and they don't consider it cheating because they were banging since before Lisa met Ethan. And it's kind of a fucked up mindset because they're still sneaking around and everything. And then they both have consciences too. Like when Ethan says, I'm trying to have a kid, they decide to break it off, but they still can't. And then when Ethan and Lisa are trying to deal with the fact that they can't have kids, there's some really sad moments. And it's got one of the most realistic depictions of a couple unable to have a child that I've ever seen in a show. And it gets really sad during some of the parts. But then later on in that same episode, there's this very long running joke about a party bus and a wine tasting tour. And it balances those tones mostly well, but it kind of feels sometimes like the character moments are just, they're getting them out of the way so they can get back to being zany again. So it's only 8 episodes, half hour each. I'd recommend watching it. It's not perfect, but it has enough good stuff to balance out the noticeably bad stuff. And I think Nicholas Stoll, the highs are higher than the lows are low.
Mm-hmm.
So
you keep the hot side hot and the cold side cold.
Yeah.
Sure.
The McDLT. Eh?
Oh.
All right. So with that said, we'll go ahead and move on to our next movie topic. Now, I have talked about Fletch at length, so I'm going to put it over to Hawk. Since you're on a roll from Friends with College, tell us a little bit about your experience watching Fletch for the first time.
So yeah, I hadn't seen this before. I actually thought it was a spoof more in line with The Naked Gun. Because I didn't know anything about this. I never was I don't want to say I have never been a big Chevy Chase fan, but that's because I don't watch a lot of Chevy Chase movies. It's not the fact that I dislike the guy at all. I just never really followed him very much.
You would be perfectly okay disliking him. From what I understand, he's not the nicest human being.
I've heard he's kind of a shitbag, yeah, but
he sounds like it.
But with that said, Fletch, what differentiates it from a lot of other Chevy Chase films of the time is while it's certainly a comedy, it takes itself seriously as kind of as sort of a mystery film too.
Yeah, it's a mystery neo-noir, but it's got some pretty good moments of comedy. But then it still knows it balances tones. It balances tones very well. Like it never feels like one tone is dominating the other. They all kind of just coexist in this really comfortable setting.
Right. Yeah. Moments of seriousness do not feel out of tone, and the comedy never feels like it's too over the top. And what I enjoy about Fletch as a character, I really think it's Chevy Chase's best performance too. Is he's a guy who will bullshit his way out of any situation, and no matter how ridiculous, and no matter how ridiculous his BS, because he completely owns it and takes it seriously, people will buy into it. And that includes when they ask him his name and he just comes up with an obviously made up on the fly name, like I'm Dr. Rosenpenis, John Cocktoston. Yeah, it seems like the names he makes up for himself almost always involve the dick.
Yeah, right.
Dan Harmon's not even funny.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I'm going there. Yeah, I'm going there. Chevy Chase sounds like an asshole in real life. Not to take away from the quality of this film. I'm stalling because Hawk has left us for the time being.
Yeah, he dropped off. But another great thing about Fletch is the soundtrack by Harold Faltermeyer, which is, in my opinion, at least as good as Beverly Hills Cop.
Yep.
Yeah, I think the Fletch soundtrack, in some ways, I actually prefer it to Beverly Hills Cop.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I have not seen this entire film. When Ken and I attempted to review it before, I was like on a time crunch and I could only watch a portion of it. And also Hawk Ripjaw, who is not here. Me and him were supposed to discuss Kung Fu Hustle on that episode, so I took time out of my week to watch Kung Fu Hustle, and then he wasn't at that show, so yeah. I did not have time to watch all of Fletch.
Yeah, it happens, but
I know I'm trying to be funny. I'm not like complaining about anybody.
Well, and you know, back to Fletch really quick. One thing that's really neat about it is the cast. You have a lot of really talented actors backing him up. I mean, Jodan Baker. You have Tim Matheson,
Mitchell, and Otter. Great.
Emmett Walsh, of course.
Emmett Walsh, who plays, what's his famous role? Just a crazy old guy.
Emmett Walsh has a lot of famous roles because he's great at playing the kind of rednecky older dude. I mean, I love him in Blood Simple. That's my favorite character of his. I forget his name, but Bill Arsenault. What was his name in Blood Simple? Do you remember?
No, I'm afraid not.
Visser. That's right. I just looked it up. But you know, I mean, you know, the movie also, Fletch is also a movie that contains a performance from the actor Kenneth Mars, who is more of a Mel Brooks kind of person because he's appeared in, he was in Young Frankenstein and The Producers. You would know him in The Producers for playing the
he's
Nazi
the guy
playwright.
that wrote. Yeah, he's the guy that wrote Springtime for Hitler. You're right.
And in Young Frankenstein, he's Inspector Klemp, the guy with the wooden arm.
Yes, based on a real thing from one of the old Frankenstein films.
From Son of Frankenstein, which honestly, Son of Frankenstein is kind of my favorite Frankenstein movie. It's a lot of fun. But yeah, so you know, it's okay. Yeah, Hawk just messaged me that his internet went out. So he managed to message me that, which means that maybe he's on.
He might have. Well, I was going to say he might have done that from a phone.
So I'm going to blame him anyway. Right as I was expecting him to talk about this movie. Apparently, Burt Reynolds and Mick Jagger were both considered for Fletch at one point.
Oh God.
Yeah, Mick Jagger, famous for his performance in Ned Kelly.
Or in the movie Performance.
His movie Performance, yeah, exactly. Actually, that would have.
No, did you ever see the movie Performance?
Yeah, I didn't, but you're right. I've heard of Performance.
It's a weird movie, but he's actually quite good at it. But he's mostly just playing himself,
right?
Which is best, you know.
And that movie also has James Fox in it, a member of one of England's greatest acting aristocracies, the Fox family. There's a lot of Foxes in there's Robin Fox, there's Edward Fox, there's Robert Fox, Amelia Fox,
Michael J. Fox.
Hey, there you go.
Yeah, it's
class of 1984's own Michael J. Fox.
Exactly.
But I gotta ask you, you know,
do it.
Did Mick Jagger ever get the fucking gig?
Oh, that's lovely.
We love that movie.
That's great.
So we'll go ahead, and since Hawk is off, we're going to jump over into George A. Romero to talking about his movies a little bit. We'll close out our episode on this. So first of all, what does everyone here's like first George Romero film that they saw?
The very first one. I mean, honestly, I kind of discovered him a little late. It wasn't. I always kind of knew of him. I always knew of the Dead films. That's obviously the go-to thing for Romero fans, or for anyone who's a fan of zombie movies and stuff. When you hear George Romero, you think the Dead series,
Right?
And I suppose my initial introduction with him was through the Mike Nelson's commentary riff track. It wasn't an official riff tracks at the time, but it was his riff on Night of the Living Dead on the colorized version of Night of the Living Dead DVD, which I still have.
Wow. So you didn't even see the movie first? You just saw the riff tracks?
Yeah, I just saw the riff track version of it. I mean, I was able to watch the movie too, but I mean, I was mostly just there for the MST3K, style of it, and I appreciated what I saw, but I was also like, laughing with the jokes and everything. But since then, I've been wanting an official release of Night of the Living Dead. It's in the public domain.
Right. Well, yeah, because of an accident of the distributor, unfortunately, Night of the Living Dead entered the public domain. And
I really appreciate that it's public domain, because if I ever want to watch it, I can just pull it up on YouTube. AMC shows it pretty regularly throughout October every year.
And yeah, because it's cheap to see. Now, I have actually the only George Romero approved DVD version of Night of the Living Dead. It was for sale. I think it went out of print a while ago, but it's the DVD cover is like red, and it has a full commentary track by Romero and special features he participated in. But because of its public domain status, there are so many different DVD releases of it, and so many different quality versions that it's one of those movies that's out there and easy to see. It was definitely the first movie of his that I watched as well, because it was on late at night when I was a kid. I woke up early and I watched it at like 3 a.m, and it creeped the living hell out of me.
I gotta say, I have a very different introduction to this movie than I think both of you guys, because you're both like a little older. You're more into especially older films. My dad's a monster movie guy. My dad is not a zombie movie guy. You know what I mean? So my dad would wake me up in the middle of the night to watch Dracula or Creature from the Black Lagoon, that kind of thing. Never once has I ever heard my dad talk about Night of the Living Dead.
Well, and now you have seen it, though, right? Haven't you? Perfect timing.
Well, all right then. I've seen it in full without the riff tracks, commentary on it. But I enjoy it. Go ahead, Bill.
Am I still on? Did I cut off or something?
Yes.
Yeah, you cut out for a second.
Okay.
Yeah. Ken was asking you, have you seen Night of the Living Dead in full?
Yes, because of James Rolfe doing Monster Madness on Cinemassacre. Basically, like, I watched that the first run of Monster Madness. I think it was 07 or 08, but I watched all of those videos. And then I remember AMC does their like horror marathon in October, like as you do. And I watched Night of the Living Dead at a party, and I pretty much like just abandoned the party, and I sat down and watched the movie like I was glued to the screen. Other people would come in and get into the movie and watch it with me. And I was like, damn, I immediately I got it. And then not too long after that, I watched the 1990 remake of Night of the Living Dead, which is also good.
Yeah, I would say it's solid, although I hate the ending. The ending really kind of tears away the
visceral, guttural ending of the original, where the black man gets killed, and then the credits are just like his body being removed from the house.
It was a very politically correct way to end the movie by just having the only thing I do respect about the idea behind that is they made a Barbara who was much like a much better character, because Barbara in the original Night of the Living Dead is kind of a shrill, not very interesting character.
She's obedient.
And she's
If she's not
completely-
obedient, she gets smacked. That happens in the original.
Well, she doesn't talk for a whole, for most of the movie because her character is basically catatonic, and it's, not exactly a progressive female portrayal. But, yeah, so I understand where they were going with it, but to me, it just kind of, that's the one flaw. I enjoy, though, the rest of it. And I think as far as remakes go, they had a good direction for the most part that they had.
Did Tom Savini direct that?
Yes, I think it's one of the only films he's directed.
Yeah, I remember watching that.
And Romero produced it. So
I remember watching that on TV and just being endlessly fascinated with the remake aspect of it. Like it's different, but it's also the same. You know what I mean? And I think that those two films are really great companion pieces, despite the ending of the remake.
And after hearing the news of Romero passing away, I decided to go back and I watched a couple documentaries on his material, Birth of the Living Dead, which is about the making of Night of the Living Dead, and Document of the Dead, which is the making of Dawn of the Dead. And I'm going back and kind of reviewing some of the stuff he did in the past that wasn't zombie related, such as Creepshow, which is probably his most accessible movie to people who are less experienced with like horror films, because Creepshow is sort of a comedic horror anthology.
It's very 80s. I remember the first time I saw it, the vibe that I got from the opening onward was 80s. I had mentioned it earlier in this episode, though. Twilight Zone, the movie, I had seen before Creepshow. So there was definitely that in the back of my mind. And I understand Creepshow came out first, right?
Oh, yes. And Creepshow,
yeah.
What's the horror credentials that it has is it's heavily influenced by the EC horror comics of like the 50s and like Tales from the Crypt. And it carries with that, the fun vibe that those have. And Stephen King was the screenwriter of the film and also appears in one of the
Stephen, I have made reference to Stephen King's character in Creepshow many, many times on this show and many commentaries that we've done, because anytime I see like just your hick, borderline mentally disabled redneck character, I think of Stephen King in Creepshow.
What's great is King has kind of played that character in a few movies.
Actually, a quick aside. What is that film, Ken? Human Highway?
Yes.
Neil Young in Human Highway reminds me of Stephen King in Creepshow. Like, way too much.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and buy that for $1. In fact, if you told me today that Neil Young was going for that, I would completely believe you.
They were both 82, weren't they?
I think so. Oh yeah, that sounds about right. So maybe they were. Sorry about that sound, guys. Unfortunately, there's a lot of noise around here. But anyway, but yeah, Creepshow though, it's the short within the film that always got me was the one with Leslie Nielsen, because Leslie Nielsen plays a really like evil character, and it always made me laugh. Well, it makes me laugh now, but when I was a kid, it scared the crap out of me because I was used to Leslie Nielsen being a humorous character.
Maybe you guys can give me some context. I don't remember what episode it is, but there's a Mystery Science Theater episode where Tom Servo riffs. He goes, Leslie Nielsen, Leslie Nielsen, Leslie Nielsen. To this day, I don't understand what he was talking about. It might be Pod People. I'm trying to think of like episodes I've seen a million times. I don't remember. I just love the idea. Kevin McCarthy's voice in my head going, Leslie Nielsen, Leslie Nielsen, Leslie Nielsen. It's
I can't
beautiful.
help you with that one, Bill.
Kevin McCarthy, you mean Kevin Murphy?
Did I say Kevin McCarthy? What the fuck is wrong with me today? I keep fucking up everything.
At least you didn't say Cormac McCarthy.
Kevin Murphy, who is wonderful. Yeah.
So yeah, and another George Romero film that I want to highlight is Night Riders.
Ooh.
Kevin McCarthy is the bad guy from UHF, isn't he? That's that guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
A UHF station.
Now, Knight Riders is really the only non-horror movie that Romero did. I mean, I guess there's always
starring Ed Harris. Oh my god.
Yeah, there's always Vanilla, I guess, was a romantic comedy, but like no one's seen it, and even Romero has said he doesn't really like the movie, so we won't even count that.
Somebody's grandmother might love it, though. You never know.
Yeah, but yeah, Knight Riders. The plot of it is basically it's a retelling of the Arthurian legend via a motorcycle gang that goes to Ren fairs and does jousting on motorcycles.
That's silly.
It's
very silly.
It's actually a wonderful movie though, because it has a lot of fun with it. It's legitimately, it works as a retelling of the Arthurian legend, and yet it's this great 70s kind of hell on wheels sort of drama, always dealing with the cops, and Tom Savini plays the Sir not the Sir Galahad, the Sir Lancelot.
Lancelot? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
How are the bad guys in this movie?
The bad guys?
Yeah.
Well, the Arthurian legend is always kind of about the basically King Arthur.
This is a movie about guys on motorcycles in the 1970s. There has to be bad guys.
Well, it's not bad guys because they all kind of joust with each other. Okay. Well, here's the thing: the area of the Arthurian legend that this follows is kind of the basically about the Round Table breaking up, and so so it's sort of like the bad guys come with. I would say, you know what, Savini is probably the antagonist of the film. Because in the classical Arthurian legend, Sir Lancelot, who was Arthur's greatest knight,
this is before Dawn of the Dead?
Well, the movie came out in 1981, so no, it came after.
No, it doesn't. I was just thinking, Tom Savini as a biker. You got Dawn of the Dead, you got this film, and then you got Dusk Till Dawn.
Oh yeah. Oh well, his biker character in this totally. I mean, there's a little sex machine in it, of course.
Right, and we'll get to Dawn of the Dead. Continue with Kickstarter. What's this film called?
Knight Riders.
Knight Riders, starring David Hasselhoff. Go.
Exactly. So yeah. Anyway, so Savini, though, he also effectively was the stunt coordinator on the film, and he put together the motorcycle jousts. And there aren't, I mean, it's not like the movie is packed full of them, but the scenes that they occur are really gripping, and the drama is solid, and the costuming is really creative. The performances, I mean, Ed Harris is great as effectively the film's King Arthur. And it is it's hard to find, but if you can get a good copy of the movie, highly recommend you give it a look. Apparently, the film is cited as the inspiration for the Society of Creative Anachronism, which is an organization that goes along and does Ren fairs. So that's interesting. So anyway. Yeah. The only other Romero movie that I feel the need to reference is the sadly underrated film Martin, his vampire movie.
Martin.
Bill A., have you seen Martin by any chance?
I haven't.
Okay. Martin is also, like Knight Riders, just impossible to get a hold of, and it's too bad because it is such a unique movie. And what's great about Martin is it's a video nasty. In other words, it was banned by the British government. And the reason being is you couldn't get a more fucked up vampire movie concept. The concept of Martin is it's about this young man, probably like early 20s, late teens, who is he's a vampire, not like a magical vampire. I'm a vampire. Right. Yeah. He says, and he actually calls into a radio show that like sort of a Howard Sternish kind of show where they love him calling in because he talks and they think he's bullshitting them, but he tells these stories about how he's a real vampire. And when I say real vampire, what he does is he murders women, fucks them and drinks their blood.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Wait, in that order?
Yeah. he injects them with like narcotics and slices them with a razor blade, drinking their blood, and it's a messed up fucking movie.
Nice.
And what's great is there's these freak out sequences where what happens when right before he commits one of his acts of murder, he keeps the movie keeps flashing to this gothic kind of black and white version of what he's seeing to give you an idea of how he's envisioning himself, and he kind of envisions himself in the classical vampire persona, and then it shows what he's actually doing. And there's this horribly disturbing scene where he's imagining himself, ascending the staircase and finding the lonely the lonely virgin who he's going to be drinking the blood of, and he breaks into the room and she's in the bedroom with this dude, and the first thought in his mind is, who are you? Yeah, he has the right to question her because it's like she's cheating on him as a vampire.
I like that one. If you get back into like Dracula, specifically Dracula and his harem of women and making them slaves, that adds up.
So the movie though opens with Martin moving in. He moves in. He takes a train to Pittsburgh because his uncle is like this old Lithuanian dude who believes in vampires, and he's basically trying to cure Martin of his vampirism, and he constantly refers to Martin as Nosferatu. It's wonderful. Anyway, Martin's worth seeing. It really is, because it's really fucked up little B movie, and the seriously low budget. It's amazing how much they get away with on such a small scale film.
Mm-hmm.
And outside of the Dead trilogy, those are kind of the Romero movies that I would recommend. Monkey Shines is also fun, but I would argue that the final half hour is what you need to see of Monkey Shines.
The build-up's not that important?
The build-up is okay, but it gets a little overlong and dull. The last half hour of Monkey Shines, though, is so... let me put it this way, Bill. Go ahead and watch Monkey Shines, but the last half hour is really where it pays off. Everything in the movie comes together with... basically, quadriplegic battling a monkey who's trying to kill him. Yeah, it's genius. That last bit. Does anyone have any other thoughts on Romero that they would like to make?
I have, especially like just to fill out the Dead trilogy. I watched Dawn of the Dead the other day at work with two of my coworkers, and they were very, very against me putting the movie on. And I did it anyway. And I think that I actually kind of surprised them, and they liked it, because I think they thought going in that it's just because, especially now in 2017, if you're seeing that film for the first time, zombies have been shoved down your throat for the past, almost a decade at this point, over a decade at this point.
Oh yeah, the zombie thing has gotten really, really worn.
And I think that they really found the original Dawn of the Dead very refreshing, because the horror stuff is in the opening when, the TV station and then the SWAT team clearing out that building and then blah, blah, blah. Once they get to the mall, it's action comedy, like pretty much. There's some stuff that happens afterwards. Spoilers, main characters get bitten and all that fun stuff. But really, in a film that has leather
Yeah, I would say the movie, as soon as the music, the library music plays in the background for like the sort of the stock mall background music, the satire really starts to creep in. And of course, when day
as well and night, I love all three of the original Dead trilogy. But when it comes to just straight out filmmaking, creativity, throwing shit at the wall, like, oh god, Dawn of the Dead nails it. Dawn of the Dead delivers in ways that a lot of other zombie films do not.
I will definitely say Dawn is the most ambitious, and it really accomplishes that ambition in every way. And I've actually been, by the way, to the Monroeville Mall where it was shot.
Nice.
Apparently, they just, like, within the last couple of years, did a complete, like, a complete redoing of the inside, and there's literally nothing left of what Dawn of the Dead looked like, which is too bad because when I was there with Zach, this is way back in college when we were there. We actually snuck into some of the back room areas, and it was totally like it was in the movie with all those pipes and shit.
That's awesome.
And
did you find their spam room?
We did not find the spam room, unfortunately.
The room where they keep all the spam.
But we did find those wonderful islands in the on the floor of the mall with like the corny plastic trees and everything. And it was a cool little excursion. It's fun when you go to that. When you go to movie locations, unique movie locations. There's also, I've been to out in Dyersville, Iowa, the original Field of Dreams baseball field.
I'm going to get a little cynical here, and I'm sure both of you guys are going to jump down my throat as soon as I mention David Lynch, but I'm going to do it anyway. I would recommend any aspiring filmmaker who is interested in making movies that are fun, watch Dawn of the Dead before you... Oh, am I muted?
No, you're good.
Ken is muted.
No, we hear you.
I would say watch Dawn of the Dead before you watch Citizen Kane, before you watch Blue Velvet, before you watch The Revenant, or any of these movies that take themselves... I haven't seen Blue Velvet. I can't judge that. But as far as just like the quintessential example of how to make a B movie that treats itself like an A movie, or maybe not treats itself, but like ends up being on that quality. You know what I mean?
I see where you're going with that, but I wouldn't say necessarily don't watch. I would say that
no. Well, I didn't say don't watch. Just get this first. Put this in your pipe and smoke it. Like
it's amongst the low budget movies that I would certainly turn to when recommending someone to. Actually, Night of the Living Dead is, in my opinion, an even better example of doing a lot with so little.
And I understand that, and that is absolutely true. Very completely justified to say. I just think Dawn of the Dead translates to more fun being had on the screen when you're watching the movie.
Yeah, I mean, if you're talking about how to make a B movie that's just fun, Dawn, the lesson from Dawn is write a creative screenplay.
Yeah.
Really,
Or make friends with somebody like Tom Savini, who is super creative and is basically like on the cusp of his big break. But that's more difficult of a request.
Yeah, that's sort of like the lesson is be good at what you do.
Essentially.
How do I break into the industry? Get good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
thanks, Dick.
Meet somebody that's good, right?
Right, or meet someone that's exactly. Meet people who are good and become their friends. And if it's Adam Sandler, he'll put you in his movies regardless of your talent level.
There was I was listening to Gilbert Gottfried's podcast recently. I don't remember who the guest was, but they said something about that. Like basically made that exact joke. And Gilbert was like, why haven't I been called up to be in one of Adam Sandler's movies?
Well, actually, the story that Gilbert tells is that Adam Sandler specifically at one point confronted him and said, if you were nice to me back then I would have had you in all my movies.
Yes.
And that was like, apparently Adam Sandler told him that at like the Saturday Night Live reunion.
Oh, yes. I don't remember who the guest was on that episode, but I remember that story so well.
Right, which that's That says a lot. For Sandler, I don't know.
Really?
That's kind of a dickish thing to say.
Oh yeah, that's some slime ball shit.
But with that said, I think we've talked this subject. Long story short, George Romero will be missed, and check out his movies if you have not seen them.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back and watch a bunch of them because I need to.
And next week, topics. We still haven't talked about the dawn of the War of the Planet of the
Dawn
Apes.
of the Rise of the War of Planet of the Apes. Rise. Yes. Okay.
And I don't even know
The Dawn of the War of the Rise of Andy Serkis.
what's even coming out this weekend.
Dunkirk, yes.
Oh, is that it? I thought the Emoji Movie was supposed to come out.
No, it's next week.
All right.
Dunkirk already did Kirk.
Watch your mouth. Watch your mouth.
So anyway, we will see you next week.
Okay. Hey.
Bye.